Hello, I'm back with another video. Today, I wanted to talk about prohibition and how I believe it's not the right path forward and it is not the way to treat psychoactive substances in society. I believe this because I think prohibition is a very outdated and medieval method of just banning thing because you don't understand it, banning thing because it's bad. We live in the big 2026 and people should be allowed to make their own choices instead of just being told what they can and cannot do, especially when it relates to their own body and their own actions. You know, when you take psychoactive substances, you are only really harming or not harming. You're only really affecting yourself and not the people around you, unless you tweak out so bad that you get put in a mental institution or other people find you. But it's the same as with any other thing, you know, you can be so drunk that you tweak out and other people have to take care of you. You can be so mad that you become a pain to other people. You can drive a car and be a pain to other people. All of these things are not bad. It should be the user's responsibility to use responsibly and carefully and not be a pain to other people. If somebody is a pain to other people, then fair enough, maybe their substance license should be taken away. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I will first cover the pros of prohibition. There are not many that I could think of. Number one is that there is zero chance of somebody messing up, aka becoming theoretically zero chance of somebody messing up, aka becoming addicted, being a pain to others because of their use, ruining their life, you know? All theoretically is the biggest word here, because even though prohibition exists, and it is the structure that we live under regarding substances right now, it does not remove them from existence. You can still access these things, and you can still ruin your life, get addicted, do all these harmful things. But under perfect prohibition, you would not be able to do that because you simply would not have access to the substances that the government says you're not allowed to have access to. This follows into the next point of, theoretically, zero of the banned substance. If it's fully prohibited, there would be none of it. So people would have no chance of even experiencing it and potentially having all these bad things happen to them. That's the idea behind prohibition. You just ban it, and then you don't need to think about it. It's that simple. Bad thing banned. Thing that people misuse, banned. Now, the cons of prohibition. Obviously, it is not perfect, and just because you ban something, it doesn't stop existing. Therefore, there is a black market for all of these substances and all of the prohibited things, you know? Even though guns are banned in the country that I live in, you can still get guns. Even though psychoactive substances are banned, you can still get psychoactive substances. It's not difficult. It's very, very easily accessible and possible to do. Anyone with a mobile phone or computer or access to social media is capable of getting these substances. It is very easy. So, prohibition leads to the development of a black market. Point number two, less education about the psychoactive substances. When they're banned and people generally don't do them, there is a lack of information about those things. So the people that do end up doing them are starting from a disadvantaged spot because they don't know as much, because it's a taboo topic in society, and while there are resources available, like people who partake as well, or things online, Erowid.com, use Erowid.com and the Drug User's Bible, very good resources for staying safe and knowing what you're doing. Please use them. People still are less educated than they would be if this was not a taboo topic that you could just talk about without having people look down on you. Less education leads to a higher chance of mistakes or accidents happening when contact with the prohibited substance occurs. For example, a lot of people smoke J's when they smoke, but because they are unaware that there are healthier methods available, and that smoking J's and blunts is the most destructive method of consuming, and is damaging your lungs. People do stupid doses of psychedelics because they are not aware of what dosage they should take. People overdose on painkillers and opioids because they are unaware of the safe doses to take. They just think, it doesn't matter, I'll just take whatever this amount is and figure it out later. You can't do that with a lot of psychoactive substances because you will just straight up die or be seriously injured. If there was more education, these things would happen way, way less. People tweaking out off of what's called uppers, inability to sleep, sleep deprivation, psychosis, are all things that should be very widely known because they affect people who do legal psychoactive substances as well. Things like medication from doctors, things like Adderall or other ADHD medications that are basically meth and prevent you from sleeping. If people knew that that is how these substances work, there would be a lot less harm caused by them. But because education is poor and even your doctor will just give you the pill without really explaining fully what it does or all of the effects that it can have and how to use it properly, people will misuse it, and there will be negative effects. Another con of prohibition is that the government earns less money. You know, I would never have thought that I would be advocating for the government to earn less money, but when there is a large black market and they're not capitalizing on it, they are truly losing a lot of money, which is a very good reason for them to legalize it, because they can then tax it and earn money. And the government loves money, so this seems like a no-brainer. There will be cons of prohibition. The crime rate is higher because the market does not disappear when you ban the product. People just go to alternative sources, which is the black market, which is crime. There are plugs, there are dealers, there are customers who possess illegal items. That is all crime, which contributes to the quote-unquote crime statistic. Plugs contribute to the crime statistic. You know, they are technically criminals, even though most of them are just people trying to earn money and distribute products which they believe in. They're not violent, they're not causing harm to society, unless you're like a fent or meth or heroin plug, but they know what they're doing. So if things are legalized and there is no prohibition, there will be less crime. Areas will feel safer because you will not have sketchy dudes walking around selling stuff. Another con of prohibition is that the products themselves are more dangerous and risky to take. Because there is no larger overseeing body, there is no guideline by which they're made. They are illegal, so people just manufacture them in their own backyard or shed. There's no quality control. There is no repercussions for creating bad product, dangerous product. People just make stuff. If you're a good person, you will test it and make sure that it's safe to consume. Some people are not good people and will just put product out there without caring about what it does to people, because they know that they will have no repercussions and it's very difficult to trace it back to them when it's been sold through a chain of 5 people. The end consumer is not coming back to you and blaming you or suing you. You can't sue them. It's illegal. You really gonna sue somebody for something illegal that you did? No. Therefore, it's way, way more likely for products to be dangerous, laced, mislabeled, misdosed, all of those negative things that you do not want, which lead to bad experiences, which lead to dangerous experiences. If these things were legalized, the dosing would be way clearer, the ingredients would be way clearer. Now, you can see that there really are a lot of cons to prohibition as opposed to pros, because the pros are just, this thing does not exist, therefore it can't harm us. Except the thing does exist, and it is still widely available, except there is no oversight, there is no control, there is no regulation, there is no safety. It's just out there for people that decide to seek it out. It leads to higher crime rate, and it leads to potentially more misuse and more abuse and more avoidable negative things. Because people just don't know, or they get tricked. Now, the system that I believe is better. Pros of a free but regulated market. Number one, for any governments watching, you will make so much money because you can set up the industry. You can then tax it and make money off of all of the sales. You know, the psychoactive substance black market is a very, very, very large economy. There is a lot of money to be made here if you just tax it. Simple. Just money. The government loves money. Surely they would see this as a big, big positive. Number two, less crime. If it's legalized, then the plug is no longer a criminal. The plug can open his own business and still sell those same products to the same people, except he can now do it under a legal system where he will not go to prison or get punished by the law if he does things properly. It's a win-win. The customers get a stable place that they can go to for reliable service, and the plug gets to run a legal business, which most of the dudes doing this would prefer, because they don't want to go to prison. They're just doing this because they love the game, or they just want money, and this is how they know to make it. If they had a legal pathway to make money, they would take it. If they had a legal way that they could get off the streets, they would take it. Offer them that legal way. There will be less crime. The customer is not a criminal for possessing the illegal items. The plug is not a criminal for providing them. Another pro of a free but regulated market. Cheaper, wider available, and safer products for the end consumer. If it is legalized, if it is regulated, if there are proper systems set up to deliver the product to the end consumer, if they know that what they're taking is grown, manufactured, created in a professional environment that is tied to a physical location, to a legal business, the business will be much more incentivized to create higher quality and safer products, because now there is repercussions that can be put upon the business for providing bad quality goods. If you lace your stuff, people can sue you. If you mislabel your stuff, people can sue you. You will get shut down. So you are much more incentivized to create good products. They will be the cheaper one, depends on how much the government decides to tax it, but on the street there is a very big markup for these substances because of the risk associated with trafficking them. You're paying more than the substance is really worth, just because it's hard to get to you. It's annoying, it's illegal, so of course more money is added on. If it was a safe and legal business, the cost would go down because the risk associated with it is also down. Next, there will be more education, which will lead to safer practices and safer consumption. If it is a legalized and safer market, there will be less taboo about it in society. People won't be scared to ask questions, because instead of being like, oh no, what if they get mad at me for doing shrooms? What if they think I'm a criminal and report me somewhere? Now they'll be like, they can't really do anything. It's the same as telling somebody that I drink. You know, nobody really cares if you drink because it's legal and it doesn't harm anybody except you. But who cares, right? So people will be much more likely to ask questions. People will be much more open to learning about it and asking for help when they need it. This will lead to a more educated populace that will practice safer consumption and will know more about what they are taking. I believe this will lead to less overdoses, less accidental bad experiences, safer ways of consuming, and safer ways of practicing doing the psychedelic substance, the psychoactive substance. Cons of a free but regulated market. Potentially, this will lead to more addicts and overdoses, because when a substance is more widely available and you can just walk into the store and buy it, some people might abuse that. Some people might not have the self-control to handle this item that will make them feel really good. You know, if somebody's never tried drugs before because they are illegal, but now they can walk into the store and buy weed, like in America. Or codeine is already available, but a prescription medicine. If you can just go into the store and buy codeine, people might get hooked on that because opioids are addictive. And if you have access to it, like alcohol, where you can just go and buy it, people have an easier pathway towards addiction. If you could just go to the store and buy MDMA, people will have an easier pathway towards getting addicted to that, because you no longer have to go through the plug. You no longer have to go through this whole unreliable, time-consuming pathway. You just go to the store and buy it. There's no shame. You just walk up and purchase a bottle of vodka like you purchase MDMA. Many more people will try those substances, and just because of how statistics works, that means that more people will get addicted, because now it's a larger percent of the population trying that, and there will be addicts within that percent. So it might lead to more addiction. Overdoses are a different topic, because I don't know if heroin or fentanyl should be sold and deregulated and just available, and meth. It would make sense from a completely free market standpoint. It is just up to the people to not buy heroin or meth, because those substances are really terrible for you, and you will most likely get addicted to them. So if they are available, people might be overdosing on fentanyl more often, because they would try it once and then they're hooked, and then they might OD because they can just get an amount of it. Another con of a free market is that there will be more people doing drugs in general. If you can just go to the store and buy it, it's again much more easy to obtain, which means that more people would do it. This might lead to less productivity in society as a whole, but I believe this will stabilize out. There's a reason that alcohol doesn't really decrease the productivity of society, because people are smart and they just use it to relax. They use it after work. Not many people at all show up to work drunk as hell or drunk at all. There's no reason why this wouldn't be the same with other drugs. Alcohol is more addictive than a decent amount of drugs out there. Alcohol is more addictive than weed, than mushrooms, than LSD, than ketamine, I would say. MDMA to certain people, but that one, take it with a grain of salt. People don't show up to work on alcohol. People don't really reduce their productivity with alcohol, so why would it happen with less addictive substances that people can control themselves more with? It just doesn't make sense. While more people would use drugs, I believe that this use would largely be recreational, because most people are smart with alcohol, so there's no reason why they wouldn't also be smart with other substances. Another con of the market, of a free but regulated market, is that it does not fully get rid of the black market, because the black market will have the ability to evade the government taxes and still provide the product at a cheaper rate. While it will remain, I believe that it will eventually phase out, if not very majorly decrease in size. Because why would people go to the plug and buy a product that's not fully trustworthy, a product that could be random or laced or not as good, when they can just go to the dispensary and purchase something guaranteed that they know will work and they know will be safe? It's a no-brainer. You would rather just buy from the dispo. While the black market will remain, I think it will decrease by a very, very large amount, which will still lead to less crime and less violence. because plugs are more likely to be violent still, since they're not as bound by the law. You know, if you rob them, they'll shoot you. If you do them wrong, they might fight you. Just be nice to people. It's the ultimate life hack. They will also be nice to you if you are nice to them. I believe that prohibition is not the cure. A free but regulated market is way better of a solution. Let the people make mistakes. If somebody is stupid and they get addicted to something, just like you can get addicted to alcohol, it is their own fault. It is their own body that they are destroying. It is their own mind that they are destroying. They brought that upon themselves. It is upon them to climb out of that hole. The government or the people legalizing the substance are not responsible for the people misusing it and ruining their own lives with it. It is the people's individual responsibility. You could even say this is natural selection, and that the people who do not have the mental strength to control themselves and not abuse the substance simply would not be as capable of existing in a world with a free but regulated drug market. That would just be how that goes. If you are not capable of surviving and thriving in that world, you are naturally selected to not be a part of it. You filter yourself out of the gene pool, and the next generation will be much more likely to resist those temptations, be able to control their mind, be able to control their desires towards psychoactive substances, which will lead to a more resilient populace with a increased willpower. Thank you for watching.